Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm delighted this afternoon to have my good friend Don Welsh from Destinations International. He's tucked away in Florida, nice and warm. I'm tucked away in West Sussex in England, where it's nice and cold. But we did have the opportunity to meet over a pint last week, didn't we, Don?
We did at that, Graham. Always great seeing you.
Good. Don, you were in Europe. You were in Dublin a couple of days before that I met you. At a new event, I think. What was the essence of that event? What was the purpose of it from a DI perspective?
One of the goals we had nearly a decade ago was to begin convening really the global tourism leaders annually. And, it's taken this period of time to grow our membership base to include Europe and the Middle East and Latin America and certainly North America. So we felt as though the time was right. Normally, for an event like this, you plan at least a year, maybe two out. But we felt as though about 8 months ago, the idea went from an idea to actually let's do it with our board of directors. And the first person I called and talked about this idea was Paul Kelly with Fulch Island. And Paul is very familiar with us. He served on multiple committees. And as soon as I posed the question, would you think about potentially hosting this for us and with us? The answer was an emphatic yes. And that really put the wheels in motion. So, Graham, it is, we know right now that tourism is getting more complex by the day globally. There is over tourism, there is responsible tourism. There are certain taxes that are now being considered on tourists. So we felt as though the opportunity to get everybody together in the same room and excuse me, in a safe space environment for them to talk and meet one another in many cases. That was really the main purpose. And on top of that, we had incredible panels. We had an aviation panel with the CEO of Aer Lingus, the Chief Commercial Officer for British Airways, the CEO and founder of Ryanair. And again, talking about aviation since it plays such a critical role. So based on the feedback we received at the event, we were there for about 2.5 days, and post event is very positive to the point where hopefully this will become an annual global forum.
Excellent. Did you find that there were shared values amongst the DMOs, given this was a global event, that North American DMOs shared values with many of their comrades, if you like, in Europe and in the Middle East?
It's interesting, and that is really at the basis as to why we chose to do this event, because we know right now we can learn from one another. There are certain things, let's say, the Europeans are ahead of, and it seems like, if you look at Barcelona, you look at Venice and elsewhere, the work they've done to address over tourism is something that could be communicated, educated to those that may be in the first phases of dealing with it. So there are certain things that our Canadian or US members do that are the strength of North America. So it seems like whatever the challenge is, we have now close to 10,000 people that make up the employees of the destinations that we have around the world. So we created a portal. And whatever the issue is or the challenge is, it's amazing the questions and chatter that goes along on any given day. There could be issues of, I just had wildfires in Los Angeles. How did you deal with that? How did you communicate to both attendees of meetings coming in? How did you let people know the city was open in certain areas? So we're finding out this is both used for strategic needs as well as immediate and more tactical. And again, we're realizing that regardless of where we are in the world, we have a lot more in common as a group of tourism professionals than we have differences. So that's exactly why we felt as though the timing was right.
Good. Well, that was a gathering of destination professionals. And today, February the 19th, is, I think, the inaugural Destination Professionals Day that your organization has launched. Is the idea of that to try and raise the profile of this industry?
I think it is. I think for a long time we have been the quote silent industry, and I think people that live in a community, I think all of a sudden when they see that there are tourists showing up during whatever the course of the year is, time of the year, or there's a major convention taking place, I think somehow everybody thinks that happens magically by itself, but we know it doesn't. There are organizations, in almost every city in the world, small, extremely small, large, global destinations, where it's a group of people that are professional. They've gone through incredible education and training to be in their roles. And we felt as though right now is finally everybody else seems to have a day to recognize their profession. And we probably waited 100 years to do it. But nonetheless, ironically, this industry started in Detroit, Michigan, over 100 years ago. And today happens to be the anniversary date, the 19th of February. If you look at the founding statement as to what the intent of this organization was, it was to hustle group business. So over 100 years ago, they wanted to identify groups that moved, primarily at the time, probably between Detroit and Chicago and St. Louis, places such as that. And clearly, you look at this today, where tourism accounts for well over 10% of the world's GDP and jobs. And we felt as though the timing was right through the great advocacy work that we do with our partners and our members to somehow give proper credit and recognition to the people that do these jobs.
Do you think it would also help? It's all very well for big organizations, state tourism boards, national tourist boards, and big city tourist boards. But when you come down to those smaller destinations, and they're often fighting for budget, in fact, they're fighting for their jobs in some cases, because local businessmen, local hoteliers, local politicians will often say, we don't need that, and we don't need you to do that. Do you think an event like Destinations Professionals Day will help that as well?
I think clearly the work that went into it by our advocacy group and clearly our marketing communications team to push this message out. It literally went out a couple hours ago, and the feedback has been just very prideful. People saying, "Wow, I'm really happy to be in this industry, and thank you for recognizing." I think it's planting the seed, and hopefully the intent will be, Graham, also to attract people into the industry that may not be even aware of it. It says, wow, I can work in a city where I live and my family's located and make a difference. So the whole thing of workforce development is something we across the world have got to address. And I think anything we can do to help, I guess, perpetuate the importance the work's done in the community, both large and small, is I think going to be benefited from this program.
Yes, they can become true advocates for their homes. That's today. We've spoken about yesterday, but coming up, you've got a couple of big events. You've got the CEO forum in Savannah with Senor Marinelli, and then you have your big event in Chicago in July. Will there be themes for those, or is it just an open forum, or will you be trying to project strategies for the future?
I've been so consumed. First of all, we're thrilled about going back to Savannah. It's been almost 9 years. And, Mr. Marinelli, the CEO of Visit Savannah, will roll out the red carpet. We've got an incredible lineup of speakers. People are going to be able to come in and really immerse themselves in this true global city. It's amazing when people see the port of Savannah and the mega cruise liners and freighters coming in from around the world. You understand the significance it has from a tourism historical standpoint. And Joe's rolling out the red carpet. We expect over 300 CEOs from around the world. Again, even some of the ones that were with us this last week in Dublin have said, we will see you in a couple of weeks in Savannah. So it's going to be great. The theme, we build a theme to all of our conferences, and usually it deals around innovation and understand the complexities and the need to constantly immerse yourself with education and understand new tools and resources to do your job. And again, nothing can replace, as you know, the time when leaders get together and have that social time over a cup of coffee, lunch breaks, dinners, having a pint together. And a lot of work gets done both during the conferences and on both ends, breakfast and evening events. So, and then we also have one more. It's the Convention Sales and Services Group. We expect about 250 of the leaders that are responsible for developing the MICE market for their respective destinations. We'll be in Washington, D.C. for that. And that's actually done in some partnership that we do with our friends at PCMA. And then we will move on to the big event in Chicago, we're thrilled about going back to Chicago. That's where I was before coming here about a decade ago. And we're just elated to be in Chicago in the summertime, second week of July. And we're looking forward to well over 2,000 people there. And it's going to be an exciting time. We've already got an incredible lineup of speakers and content, and a lot of opportunity for people to explore the great city of Chicago.
Good. An opportunity to go and see the Cubs at Wrigley Field as well.
Yeah, I told you, I said, you and I will take in a game before or after the conference starts. That's a must.
When we may see something coming out of left field as well.
You never know. You never know. That's right. You shared with me a little of the history of Cubs of Wrigley Field and the Cubs.
Good. Excellent. Don, I wish you the very, very best of luck with the up and coming events. I hope it's not too long before we can share another pint together, and stay safe.
No, same to you, and thank you. Always great seeing you, Graham, both either via Zoom or in person.
Cheers.
Take care. Bye-bye.